Well, since I don't have the teleprompter, it's a little bit harder, but, welcome to cybervideo.tv.
I don't know, 20 some odd years later, when he was over the casket with Nancy Reagan, and he had become Ronald Reagan's pastor. So I felt pretty special. I felt very special about that. So we love Presbyterians, yes?
Yay!
All right, Andrew is here. He's being interviewed by the national media outside. Oh, there he is. I recognize you. So we're going to bring him up right now. How's that?
Hello, Andrew Breitbart. You've all been waiting for Andrew. Absolutely. Get the waiting for Andrew. Give him lots of love. That's what I'm saying about. Anytime. God bless you, brother. Thanks, Andrew.
I bet you my week was weirder than your week. You have no idea. The adrenaline that was coursing through my veins when I went up to New York City and the weird cinematic experience that I had. I don't even know. I started the morning intentionally in North Carolina, where I gave a speech, and I talked at that speech to a policy group of people, a bunch of wonks and political types, and I kind of gave them my standard shtick on why I do what I do. And I mean this. I live on the National Cemetery in West Los Angeles with the largest frontage of the part of the property where the bodies are buried of people who died in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've lived there since the year 2000, and we remodeled our house, whereas the last people that lived there hid the fact that that was the backyard, and we created, floor-to-ceiling windows, so that's all you can see. And so every weekend, I see families, many people, often parents who are just a bit older than I am, visiting their loved ones who died within the last 5 or 6 years. And so I've always had a mentality in what I do post 9/11 that if those guys are going to go out there, guys in the military who are still in Iraq and Afghanistan, I'm going to treat what I do for a living with the same zeal and the same commitment. And so a lot of people in the media don't like my language, they don't like my attitude, they don't like that they can't put me into a category, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to step away from the definition that I consider myself a warrior, and I really do believe that what I call in the book the Democrat media complex, which is the natural alliance of the Democratic Party, liberal interest groups, and the mainstream media, is something that needs to be taken down. And so I made that speech, and a hulking, larger-than-life, Superman-like guy comes up to me afterwards, all by myself, and says, I want to thank you for what you do. Don't for a minute know that there aren't people out there that don't appreciate what you do. And it was Tommy Franks. And because I had told that speech, I didn't know that General Tommy Franks was in the audience, and I'm giving him my heartfelt speech about my backyard and why I do what I do. And I was like, whoa. And that started my Monday. And so I got on the plane to New York with adrenaline already going through my veins because I wanted to call up all my friends and say, guess who I talked to? And guess who I took a picture with in North Carolina, the Tommy Franks. It was beyond invigorating. And so on Sunday night, the night before, we had devised our strategy. Look, you don't need to devise strategies when you're the New York Times, because you're the New York Times, and you can just drop the story. And if you're Congressman Boehner or Cantor, you know that your days and nights are numbered if the New York Times drops it. But when you're a little lowly blogger like me, and you have the mainstream media and the left blogosphere and Media Matters and Salon and the Huffington Post and the Daily Kos all out there saying, when you report a story as what happened last week, go out and destroy Breitbart. That's what they said. There was a rallying cry at the Daily Kos, go out and destroy Breitbart. It wasn't, let's figure out the facts and try and debunk this story. It's, let's destroy Breitbart. Ask Marcos Malitzis, who's on Meet the Press, why he's on Meet the Press, when at his website, his first order when seeing this story is go destroy Breitbart. And what did they do? They devised a strategy to proclaim that I was the hacker behind the illicit tweet. And so when I use war metaphor, it's because it is a media warfare that we are involved in. And when the mainstream media tries to pretend that it doesn't exist and that they haven't taken their sides, they flummox me, and that's the nicest words I can use to describe that, because they are what they are. It's like Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen at DreamWorks who say, what liberal bias in Hollywood? Okay, you flummox me too, fellas. And so we do exist in a culture war here where the mainstream media is a dominant battle. And so on Sunday night, I said, I've got these new photographs, okay? We fought them through Memorial Day weekend on the hacker thing, and we won. And we got Dana Bash at CNN and her producer, Ted Jackass Barrett, to grill him on Capitol Hill about his unreasonable explanations as to what happened on Friday night. And I love to give credit where credit is due. I'm Mr. Stick, but I'm also Mr. Carrot, and I'm sorry that everything is a phallus reference and that I'm holding this thing. It's been an awful week for double entendres, puns, and you can't help it. So I thank Dana Bash for doing her job, and I hope eventually these people start getting a little bit more serious about pursuing what they claim is their ideal, objectivity and neutrality. And we've seen a bit of it since Congressman Weiner started calling members of the press jackass, and it's been a pretty good week, especially this week. But had we not had those next set of photographs, it probably would have ended in a tie, where one side would have said Breitbart was the hacker, and the other side would have said, oh, of course he tweeted it. And they would have moved on, and Pelosi would have said, you dodged a bullet there. And I knew that we needed more, and what very few people know is that before the Friday night of the 27th, when I received that tweet out of the blue, in which I clicked on it and I looked at my laptop and I was like, what is this? And I don't know what the over and under was on average, but it took me about 9 seconds to go, I know exactly what that is. And 7 days before that, this is just too bizarre. This is why I don't believe the number 6. There are only 6 women. All right. Because I stopped it. I stopped because I'm compulsive about sending my erection to women around the country, but it stopped at 6. That's where I draw the line. And anyone that thinks that I would go to 9 is crazy. And so I can't believe his lawyers must have said, "Did you really just say sex?" Because I think we woke up today to a new gal from Georgia, and there's, okay, I'm not going to speculate because I'm a journalist, but but I had something very, 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 very interesting, and that was an email tip that came 7 days beforehand that said, "Hi, my friend in Texas got involved in a series of chats with a congressman who sent very graphic, nude, aroused photos of himself. And I was traveling in New York promoting my book when I sent that to one of my associates who did a brief conversation with the person, and we put that in our file of, that seems kind of interesting, maybe we'll get to that." You know, I'm not chasing, you know, congressional genitals, you know, for a living. It was just interesting. But when this tweet happened, there was a curious moment in our editorial call where we're like, didn't we get an email 7 days ago about this congressman and his genitals? Yeah, we did. And so we called that person on Friday night, very late. The person lived in Texas, and we probably called around 1 o'clock and went to a voicemail. I would have said, "I'm sorry, this is pretty inappropriate, but there's a pretty interesting breaking story out there about the genitals of a congressman," and that is, according to Letitia Baldridge, one of the reasons you're allowed to wake people up. I asked. She's still alive. And so he didn't call me until Saturday, and he said that he was off the grid. He said he was 2 miles away from a paved road in the middle of Texas, and I'd have to wait till Tuesday. And so from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I was being accused of being a hacker. And the mainstream media wasn't saying, "No, Andrew's not a hacker, this is ridiculous." And I had to start trying to disprove this negative. And it was excruciating. I was in Palm Springs with my family, I lost the weekend. And I'm like, isn't there someone rational in the media to help defend me? Because doesn't just the mere premise of Andrew hacked, but he doesn't want an investigation that would put me into jail for 20 years for hacking a congressional computer? Isn't that contradiction? Isn't that paradox relevant to the mainstream media? No, I had to fend and fight for myself, which caused me to go into a rare state of bronchitis and flu or whatever it was. I am an ox, I do not get sick. And I'm just trying to fend off this entire media, deluge. And I talked to the guy finally on Tuesday, and he seems like, okay, I think I'm gonna get her to come forward. And then he went radio silent for all night Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'm starting to see that even though it's obvious that he's lying and that we're going to get into this 50-50 battle, like what you think about Bill Clinton back in 1998, the split in the country, and to me that's not good enough. I want to vanquish my prey. On Friday afternoon, sorry, Susie, because I said next weekend I'll make it up for you. I get a text message from the gal in Texas, and she said she didn't like what she was seeing out there and how he was denying all this stuff. And she said, "I'm going to do it. I know that they'll probably come after me because that's what they do, but I just want to do it because it's the right thing to do." And I said, "Well, I'll walk through fire with you because that's what I do with Hannah and James and Lila Rose and anyone that comes to me, any of these young heroes out there, these young patriots and that feel the need to stand up to corruption and to corrupted power. That's why they come to me, because they know I like a good fight." And I think that at that moment I realized we have a pretty good package, as it were, to present to the American people on Monday in a particular way that I enjoy, which is the drip, drip, drip. And so after the Tommy Franks invigorating speech, post-speech moment, I get on the plane realizing I'm not going to be able to obsess on the one at a time release of the photos and watching the progress of the tension build in the media. And so when I landed at LaGuardia, my phone was ringing off the hook from the mainstream media. I had caught their attention. And that's what I like to do. It's fun. And I'll read my book. It teaches you how to do it. It's totally, totally mischievous fun. And I'm sorry, it's allowed to be. It's allowed to be. It's not, Woodward and Bernstein never, at least in the movie, never smiled. You're allowed to smile. You're allowed to have fun setting traps for these corrupt bastards. And, so the idea was to start off with the most seemingly innocuous one, and that was the one where that said me. Does anybody know what the me was about? Is that the girl was like, oh my God, I'm talking to a congressman. You know, is that really you in your congressional building? Yeah, it's me. Prove it. Me. And he sends the picture on your dime. You know, that's what he's doing. He's pre-sexting on your dime. It's so cool. That's constituency outreach. And so the second one seemed sublime. It was him with his hairless or with his long-haired cat sitting there with a come-hither look in like a post-shower sweater. You know, it was just like a weird, creepy, you know, Bailey's Irish Cream sort of moment. Self-moment. You know, one man, one cup, you know? Oh, sorry. That you even know it, it makes you the sick one. So the third one was the one when I realized that something was going to happen. And that was the freaky one where he looked like Christian Bale in American Psycho. Where it looked like, he'd be in the Balco trial with Barry Bonds, you know, with GHB. I'm like, you just see this creepy look of this guy just sitting there with his shirt off, with Huma and him on one side and Bill Clinton on the other, which conjured Animal House. You remember that scene? You remember that scene in Animal House? On one side, his wife, no, don't do it, don't do it. Like on the other side, do it. Bill Clinton. When I saw that, I said, "You got to be kidding me! Did you set this up? I mean, is this guy? Does he work for National Lampoon?" And then we found photos because we had his email, and we took his email and we went into Google, and we found a repository that's password protected for where he apparently keeps the storage of all his online photos. But it shows the last 3 that he uploaded, and all 3 of them we put the pictorial, kind of like the pictures you take with your loved one at Coney Island. Click, 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 the 3 photos. But these 3 photos were of a grunting man looking at his genitalia with his shirt off. He's a congressman. Still, he refuses to step down. This is the type of stuff that he's sending off to strangers in the night. And so, I don't know, I live in West LA and I'm told not to be judgmental. This guy's starting to totally creep me out. And, I hate to grade people on their private fantasy lives, but it didn't seem like he was much of a giver. It was like giving photos, homoerotic photos, where all he wanted was the girl to say, "Holy crap, you're in really good shape." Not to get the girl to say, "Well, do you like me? Do you want to cuddle me? Do you think I'm pretty?" I'm talking, this is the most world-class narcissist I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know why you're getting... And so, let's just cut to the chase. I'm driving into town. Marcia Kramer, the one who was kicked out of the office, calls me up and says, "I want to interview." And I said, "I want to be interviewed by you. You were the heroic one that got kicked out of his office trying to do an interview with him." And I said, "I'll talk to any reporter that's dogged in the pursuit of truth." And so I get there, and I'm excited to have my fateful moment with the courageous reporter, because I'm thinking in Hollywood terms, in the cinnamon, who's going to play me? And I'm like, because I can see this moment playing itself out, and I go there and she's not there, and I'm like, that doesn't happen in the movie. And then I'm looking around like a lost boy, and I go, "But where's my Marcia?" And I get a text that says, "He's called a press conference." And it's at the Sheraton at 53rd and 7th, and I'm at the Crown Plaza at 49th and Broadway, and I just started walking. I didn't even think, and I just started walking towards that building, and all I could think about was, I need to get my BlackBerry charged, because it's in the red zone. And I was like obsessed. I'm like going, "Oh my God, what if it goes into low battery, can't radio usage mode?" You know that mode? That freaks me out. I go into a psychic, blender, and I don't know what to do. And so I walked into the building, and all I could think about was, I need to find an outlet in the ballroom. And so I walked in with my head down. I didn't want anyone to notice me, so I could find an outlet. And so I found the outlet, I put it in, and I look up, and there are 60 reporters surrounding me. And I'm like, there's my movie scene. And they start asking me all these questions, and I'm like, awesome, I'm in that scene. And then they start saying, "We can't hear you." And all the people were set up like this. I'm over in that corner, and they're all set up on the back, and they can't move with their cameras. So they start saying, "Get up onto the stage, get up on the stage." And I'm like, I'm not usually sheepish, but this is Congressman Wiener's press conference. This is his press conference, and he can cry if he wants. And I'm like, okay, I swear, I just don't want to be blamed. And I just kept walking slowly. And they go, "It's okay." I go, "Do you promise?" They go, "Yes, I promise." And so I got up to the stage, and I just started taking questions. And it was 13 minutes of questions. And I just did what I do. I answered the press, and I throw back the facts in their face, because they have a narrative of me that's precisely the opposite. It's the one that the Daily Kos, Salon, and the Huffington Post, and ABC News, and all of them want you to believe. And I'm more than willing to debate any of them, anytime, anywhere. And the high point was, "Okay, guys, you're asking me all these tough questions. Name one lie I've ever said. Name one lie. I'll debate it right here." That's a pretty in-your-face, what if one of them started grilling me right there? But no one in that entire audience had a single question. They just went into complete silence. And to me, that was the moment of vindication before, because the press wants to be drive-by attacks on me and Rush and Palin and Bachman and Kane and all of the conservatives out there that stand up for what they believe in. Oh, they like to accommodate the accommodators, but those that stand up for what they believe in are attacked. So I thought that was the best moment of it, but in my mind, I'm thinking, but they're editors, and they're not going to cover any of the things I said, even though they probably had the cameras running, just for posterity, so that they can have it for stock footage, and they'd probably show me not talking on the airs. And Breitbart would appear there, and he So I got off the stage thinking, well, that was a Pyrrhic battle, a Pyrrhic victory. I got to talk right into their faces and tell them the truth and speak truth to power. And then I got off the stage and my phone is ringing off the hook, and a producer from a major network says, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Why did I do what? Why did you break into, why did you do that? Go up and it was live on every network." I go, "No, it wasn't." I go, "It was?" And Sean Hannity calls, he goes, "Hey, Breitbart, we want to have you on the air. You were just live on the radio and on TV." I go, "No, I wasn't." And people started to go, "Andrew, you should do this for a living. You were so calm, cool, and collected." I said, "Yeah, it's because I didn't know that I was on live television." And so they asked me what I wanted, and I said vindication, and I thought it'd be nice to get Congressman Weiner to apologize to me. And we extracted that apology. But if you analyze it etymologically, if you take it into a classroom or you scientifically deconstruct what he actually said, he made sure to put me into the subset of everyone. He could not do it independently, so he was apologizing to the street merchants of Sri Lanka to the same degree that he was apologizing to me. So I checked my sincerity seismology equipment and it registered 0. And then I called Caltech, and the short-haired gals said 0. And so people are asking me, "What do you think about his apology?" I go, "I don't care what a guy who sends erect penis photos to perfect strangers thinks. One way or the other, to be honest with you. But his constituency thinks he should still stay in office, so I think that real estate value in Brooklyn and Queens should be dropping overnight." So anyway, everything went perfect. And then I went on the Opie Anthony show, and then they screwed me over, and everything wasn't perfect in my cinematic, Molly Ringwald perception of, sitting there with the birthday cake and the candles. And I regret that the photo got out there through those nefarious means. But I am not publishing it, and I'm not putting it in its more graphic form. And I guarantee you, if the photo that I had got out there in its high-resolution form, Nancy Pelosi would put on her running shoes, run up Nob Hill, jump on an airplane, go to New York City, and say, "Get the hell out of this house," because it's the most lurid, disgusting, I cannot believe it type of thing, and I think the guy's gone next week. And that's my story. And that's what I did over my first week of summer vacation. Do I have to write an essay on it? I mean, it's kind of fun. I know you're not. I know, like, if you're Tom Brokaw or you're Peter Jennings or those people, you're not supposed to have fun doing what you're doing. But in the process of doing what I do, I meet people like you who make me feel like I'm not the only crazy person in the world that thinks that there is a right and a wrong, that there's an up and a down, that moral relativism is crazy. Social engineering of a children's mind. It's like, let's go back to 1998 and it's just about the sex. How'd that work out for our junior high school kids? So, I'm your accidental culture warrior, secular Jewish dude from the west side of LA, just trying to do what's right for the country, and I appreciate that you would have me here. Thank you. If when you read this, you don't think that this is the most prescient thing you've ever read in your entire life, that this tells the story of what we just did. I tell you that this is how the media is going to react. This is how the Democrat media complex is going to react. These are the tools. You have to be confrontational. You have to be in their faces. You have to come up with schemes to get them to notice the story, and then you win by the facts. And you just don't back down to them. And I pray to God this Republican establishment learns from this. They won't. They won't. They won't. I pray to God because the quality of candidate that we need is one that doesn't send photos to constituents like that. And that when one of their colleagues does, they stand up on a chair and they say, "Get this guy out of here." And I'm not seeing enough of that. We need to reinforce what is right and what is wrong. And I was a liberal when I was told that Clarence Thomas couldn't sit on the Supreme Court by a bunch of doughy, white, liberal men who said that he said once that there's a pubic hair on a Coke can, and the feminist movement and the mainstream media said it was the worst thing that ever happened in the history of sexual politics. I said, what the hell are you talking about? And where is the National Organization for Women now? Where are these hypocrites? If you cannot see that this is about law, they can care less about women, they can care less about people of color or race or whatever the hell you're supposed to call people, your fellow American, because they have a different hue. God, I hate these people. Thank you very much. Bye, Lord.
Give it a big round of applause for Andrew. As Bill Will says, Andrew is the only one coming back with scalps right now. He is going after the media. He is coming back with scalps. He's winning the battle. And he's my hero. Let's give him another round of applause. Thanks, Andrew, so much. Now, how many of you have bought his book? Have you bought his book? I read it right immediately. If you brought in your book, and would you mind signing it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We thought, we got a little miscue on the books here. Amazon's got them. I bought mine. I went Audible. That's just the way I am. That's the way I roll. But if you brought your book, let's get Andrew to sign them. It's so great to have him here. And I don't want to keep too long.